Have you been noticing streaks, smudges, or other imperfections in your printouts? Or worse, your printer did such a bad job that it appears it hasn't printed anything at all. Well, before you throw your all-in-one printer out the window, there's a simple DIY solution you may want to try: cleaning or unclogging the printhead. In this ultimate guide, I'll show you how to disassemble or take apart your all-in-one printer to access the printhead. Yes, it may sound intimidating, but with the right tools and guidance, anyone can learn how to do it. So, let's get started. This is our Brother DCP-T420W printer. It's a multifunction printer that can scan, copy, and, well, print. In a previous video, I showed you basic troubleshooting steps you can do to restore the print quality of an all-in-one printer without even working on the printhead directly. 80% of the time, the solutions in that video, which are quicker and simpler by the way, will work. And they did work for me. So I highly suggest that you watch that video first to save yourself time and energy. You can click it from the upper right corner of this video screen, or if you don't see it, I have included the link in the description below. So why am I now trying to access the printhead today? Well, the thing is, after a couple of days, the print quality issues returned. And even after I had invoked the printhead deep cleaning mode a few times, the symptoms were not going away anymore. There's a huge mismatch between my printouts and what I'm actually trying to print. So at this point, I need to pull apart this printer to see what's really going on inside. Now, I have two options. Either I bring it to a printer technician, or I DIY the heck out of this. If I mess up and ruin the printer completely, then at least you can learn from my mistakes and avoid what not to do. For a DIY video, I'm not inspiring much confidence, am I? Well, I guess you'll have to watch till the end of this video to see the results yourself. Okay, it's time to take apart this printer to access the printhead. Our first step is to turn off the printer and make sure it is unplugged. It's also a good idea to remove the paper tray to create more space and reduce the weight of the printer. We're ready to open the printer casing. For this step, we need a screwdriver, more specifically a Phillips head screwdriver. And the first screw we need to remove is located at the ink tank's area, upper right corner. You access this by just flipping the tank cover open. Now, depending on the model of your printer, you may need to use a different type of screwdriver. So remember to always refer to your printer's manual for specific instructions and precautions. The second and third screws are located inside the control panel at the left corner of the printer, and we'll need a trim removal tool to pry open the cover at the seams, which is locked in place by tabs underneath. While a knife or blade can be used here, I prefer a proper trim removal tool. Since this is made of plastic instead of metal, there's very little risk of scratching or damaging anything. I hope. Okay, I think I broke something. I hope that wasn't a critical component. And after a few minutes of finessing, the cover finally came loose. Lift or peel off the conductive silicone button pad and set it aside for now. Then, lift the printed circuit board or PCB and push it to the side. Doing so reveals the two screws we need to remove next. That's one. And that's two. As a side note, there are 3 slots that run along these edges. And if we take the control panel cover and turn it upside down, there are supposed to be 3 tabs that line up and lock with the 3 slots. It's the middle one I accidentally broke off earlier. The point is, you now know where these tabs are exactly located. Okay, we'll come back to the control panel later. Right now, we'll move to the rear of the printer to hunt down our next set of screws. We need to remove this dust cover. By opening the manual feed slot and inspecting the area at eye level, we'll see one screw on the left side and another on the right side. Together, they lock the dust cover in place. So, let me unscrew the left one and the right one. Once the screws are removed, we can now simply slide off the dust cover, exposing two other screws that actually lock down the printer cover at the rear side. So let me do this first. Then this one. In case you lost count, we have removed a total of 7 screws. So we're back at the control panel, and we need to disconnect a few wiring harnesses that are either attached to the printer's flatbed scanner assembly or are in the way. Otherwise, we won't be able to completely pull up the entire printer housing or enclosure. Now with everything detached, it's just a matter of sliding your fingers around the bottom of the printer and prying upwards. The intent is to create a gap between the printer housing and the frame below it. Then, gently push the PCB down into the opening before completely lifting the entire printer housing up and away. Now, this is the printhead area, and right away, I see something that doesn't belong. What is that? Huh, it's a piece of torn paper covered in dried black ink. Let me check if there are other foreign pieces around. I see something that looks off right below the printhead, but I can't grab it with my fingers. And some ink is pooling around it too. I tried using a pair of pliers, but because there wasn't enough light and the angle was impossible, I ended up grabbing the wrong thing. There must be a better way to reach that spot. And when I finally figured out that I could slide the printhead to the side, it was easier to see and pull this out. Look at all that ink the object has redirected. Turns out, it's another piece of paper stuck and coated with so much ink it's now beyond recognition. This is likely why the black color on my printouts looks so weak and faded. And just to make sure, I also inspected the entire length of the printhead's path, but found no other evidence of foreign objects. To clean the printhead and its surrounding area, you can dip a lint-free cloth in a cleaning solution or distilled water, and gently wipe everything where you see debris, ink, or other buildup. Oh, and don't use alcohol. That's too strong and may ruin some parts. But I decided not to do manual cleaning anymore, since I was pretty sure that the pieces of paper I already removed were the root cause of my printing problem. I'll just let the printer clean its own printhead later via its deep cleaning mode. Okay, let me put the printer back together. And all I need is to do all the steps in reverse. At this point, while supporting the weight of the housing with one hand, carefully guide the PCB up through the gap with your other hand. Now, make sure that the housing is squared with the frame before pushing it all the way down. But I can't seem to push the housing any further. It's nagging onto something, but I can't tell exactly what or where. Oh, maybe opening this tray will do the trick? Oh yeah. Okay, let me quickly return the 2 screws in the control panel. And all the wiring harnesses that I disconnected earlier. The PCB is labeled and the connectors have very unique shapes, so there's very little chance that you'd make a wrong connection. Just make sure everything is snug and nothing is dangling out of place. Finally, carefully replace the control panel cover like so, until you hear it snap into place. Give it a slight whack to engage the locking tabs. Okay, I still have 5 screws to return, but I'm not going to do it yet. Instead, I'll power on the printer and test if it's gonna function properly. If I encounter issues and need to reopen the housing, I have 5 less screws to worry about. Okay, let me invoke the printer's deep cleaning mode directly from the control panel. This is done by pressing a combination of buttons, which I showed exactly how to do in my previous video. For this printer, the entire cleaning process takes about 2 minutes, so I'm just gonna fast forward the video. In the end, it prints out a print quality check sheet for us to inspect each color. The dashes under magenta, cyan, yellow, and black look solid, and I don't see any gaps or imperfections. This is a good sign. Next, I'll do a scan to test if the flatbed scanner is working properly. Otherwise, I may need to reopen the casing and recheck my wiring connections. But it looks like the output is very decent, the colors more vibrant and solid. And it's even better than the one before. You decide for yourself. Here's the before. Here's after. Before. After. Before. After. Isn't this a huge improvement? Even if I get the original image and compare it with the scanned copy, they're not that far apart, despite the fact that I'm just using ordinary paper instead of photo paper. Okay, I'm quite happy with the results, so it's now time to return the rest of the screws. Beginning with the ink tank area. Good. Then, let's move on to the rear. The 2 screws for the casing. And finally, the 2 screws for the dust cover. Good. Let me do one more scan. Okay, the output appears consistent. And just to be absolutely sure that the rest of the functions are intact, I've also sent a print job from my desktop PC via wireless connection. And everything seems to be working just fine. I do see a thin vertical white line at the center of the image, which I'm confident will be easily fixed with one more deep cleaning cycle. Other than that, the colors are crisp, vibrant, and in the right places. Okay, you've seen the general principles of taking apart an all-in-one printer to access the printhead and putting everything back together. It's not that different from other all-in-one printers, regardless of the brand or model. This means you now have more options in maintaining the quality and longevity of your printer. Either hire a technician or do it yourself.